I was 16 years old the first time I understood what it felt like to be disposable. Not ignored, not misunderstood. Disposable. The kind of feeling that settles deep in your chest when you realize the people meant to protect you have already moved on without even checking if you'd survive. That day started like nothing special. A family party. One of those forced smile gatherings where adults laugh too loudly. Music plays just a bit too high, and everyone pretends everything is normal. My mom was in a great mood. My sister, too. They'd spent the entire morning talking about a spa appointment they had booked. Together, massages, facials, the whole thing. They were excited in the way people get when they're about to escape responsibility for a few hours. I remember standing near the driveway, watching them get into the car. "Don't be late," my mom said casually, already distracted by her phone. I nodded. That was our relationship in a nutshell. Short sentences, no eye contact, expectations without care. I didn't know that would be the last normal moment of my life for a long time. The accident didn't happen at the party itself. It happened on the way home. One moment I was walking, replaying awkward conversations in my head, wondering what I'd eat when I got back. The next moment, everything went wrong at once. Noise, confusion, pain, and then nothing. No dramatic slow motion. No heroic struggle. Just darkness. When I opened my eyes again, the world was bright and blurry. White lights above me. Beeping sounds. Voices that didn't sound familiar. I tried to move, but my body didn't listen. A man leaned over me, calm but urgent. A doctor. I could tell by the way he spoke. Clear, focused, like time mattered more than comfort. "You're in the hospital," he said. "You've been in an accident. Try not to move." My throat felt dry. My head felt heavy. "Your injuries are serious," he continued. "We need to act quickly." I didn't fully understand what he meant at first. I was 16. Hospitals were places you visited, not places where decisions determined whether your life continued as planned. Then I heard him say the words that changed everything. "Emergency surgery." I later learned that because I was a minor, the hospital couldn't proceed without parental consent unless it was an absolute last resort. So they called my mother. They explained everything. The severity, the urgency, the risk of waiting. They told her my condition was unstable. And then they waited. Minutes passed. Then more. The doctor kept checking his watch. Nurses moved faster. The beeping around me felt louder, more aggressive, like it was arguing with time itself. Finally, my mom answered. I wasn't awake for the call, but I heard every word afterward. The doctor told me later, his voice tight with disbelief. She said she was busy. Busy. At a spa. She asked questions, but not the ones you'd expect. Not, "Will he be okay?" Not, "What do you need from me?" She asked about paperwork. Then she said something the doctor repeated slowly, like he still couldn't believe it himself. "If it gets worse, let me know. I don't have time right now." Then she paused and added, "If he dies, let me know." She refused to authorize the surgery. Just like that. No hesitation. No emotion. She hung up. The room felt different after that. The staff didn't say much, but I could feel it. The shift in energy. The quiet urgency turning into something heavier. Something angry. I wasn't fully conscious, but my body knew. Fear has a way of slipping past confusion. They tried calling again. No answer. They tried my sister. She didn't pick up either. The doctor stood at the foot of my bed, hands on his hips, staring at the chart like it personally offended him. "This kid needs help," he said to no one in particular. And that's when something unexpected happened. Someone else stepped in. I didn't meet him that day. I didn't even know his name. All I knew was that while my mother chose comfort, someone else chose responsibility. A legal process was triggered, one rarely used, reserved for cases where guardians refuse life-saving care. I was unconscious when the decision was made, unaware that, on paper, my life had just been signed over. When I woke up again, everything was quieter. The pain was different, controlled, dulled. The room felt calmer, steadier. I realized two things almost immediately. One, I was alive. Two, something fundamental had changed. A nurse noticed my eyes open and smiled gently. "You did great," she said. "You're safe now." "Where's my mom?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. The nurse hesitated. That hesitation told me everything. Instead of answering, she handed me a clipboard. "There's something you should see." At the top of the page, in clean, official letters, were words I didn't understand at first. Legal guardian, updated. I stared at it. Updated? My heart started racing. Updated to who? I asked. The nurse took a breath. You'll meet him soon, she said. He's the one who made sure you got the care you needed. I looked back down at the paper. A stranger's name. Not my mother's. Not my sister's. Someone else had stepped into my life while the people who shared my blood stepped away. And in that moment, lying in a hospital bed, barely 16 years old, I realized something terrifying and powerful at the same time. I had been abandoned, but I had also been saved. And whoever this new guardian was, they were about to change everything. I didn't know his name at first. All I knew was that he walked into my hospital room with a calm certainty that my mom had never shown. Tall, lean, late 20s, maybe early 30s. His eyes weren't cold, but they weren't soft either. They carried authority. Someone who could handle crises without breaking a sweat. Hi, he said simply. I'm your legal guardian now. Don't worry, you're safe. Safe. The word felt foreign coming from anyone but my mom. Yet, for the first time in hours, I believed it. The next few days blurred together. I had surgery, recovery, and that weird limbo where your body is healing, but your mind can't stop replaying what happened. My mom never came. She didn't call. She sent a few texts, vague and cold, asking how I was, but never acknowledging the fact that I could have died. That she had said, if he dies, let me know. I stared at my phone, wishing for some miracle that never came. My sister didn't visit either. Instead, I had him. The stranger. My new guardian. He didn't smother me or act like a parent overnight. He simply made sure I was cared for. Meals arrived on time. Nurses were polite but efficient. My prescriptions were managed. And every day he checked in, not like a teacher, not like a parent, but like someone who actually cared whether I lived or died. By the 5th day, I could sit up and move without too much pain. I finally asked the question I'd been dreading. Who are you? He smiled faintly. I'm someone your mom trusts. More than she trusts herself, or maybe more than she trusts you. I blinked, confused. She doesn't trust me? He shook his head. She made her choice, not you. That's all you need to know for now. The words stung. I wanted to scream at him, at her, at everything, but I didn't have the energy yet. Then came the day I finally met him properly. He didn't storm in dramatically. There were no speeches. Just a quiet walk into my room with a folder in his hands. I'm here to help you get your life back, he said. And that's when it hit me. The legal guardian wasn't just a stranger stepping in for a few days. He had the power to change everything. My life, my living situation, maybe even my future. What do you mean? Get my life back? I asked cautiously. He pulled a chair close and sat down. You've been abandoned by your family, he said bluntly. That's not a judgment. That's a fact. But abandoning someone doesn't erase their life. It doesn't erase their rights or their choices. You have options, more than most teenagers ever get. I swallowed hard. My mom, she's not gonna like this. He smiled. That's the point. She made her choice. Now it's your turn. Over the next few weeks, I learned more about him. His name was Daniel. He was an attorney specializing in family law. He had seen situations like mine before. Neglect, abandonment, parental selfishness. And he had the legal authority to step in when parents refused life-saving care. But what really shook me was how calmly he spoke about my mom. No anger, no pity, just facts. She's made her decision, he said once. You're 16. You're alive. You now have the power to choose who you trust, who cares, and who deserves your loyalty. Don't waste time on the people who don't earn it. Those words stung more than the accident ever could. I remembered the spa. The laughter. The text messages she sent later, shallow and dismissive. And most of all, the phrase that haunted me. If he dies, let me know. Daniel noticed me staring at the ceiling, lost in thought. Don't let them make you small, he said quietly. They've already proven they will. You have to make yourself bigger, stronger, smarter, and if they ever try to control you again, well, you'll be ready. It didn't take long for the first shockwave to hit my mom. She had assumed that by walking away, I'd simply recover, stay grateful, and never challenge her again. That was the plan. The perfect picture of control. But Daniel had other ideas. He ensured I received the best care, the best advice, And most importantly, the truth about what had happened. When my mom finally learned I had a legal guardian, someone outside, her control, her calls became desperate. Not polite, not concerned. Desperate. "Why didn't you call me?" she demanded over the phone, her voice trembling with frustration and rage. "I was in surgery," I said calmly, surprising even myself. "You could have... this is your family. How could you..." she stumbled. "I had someone who cared enough to make sure I survived," I interrupted. There was silence on the line. I could hear her breathing. The realization must have hit her slowly, painfully. That control she had clung to for so long, gone. And in that silence, I realized something else. I wasn't helpless anymore. I had someone on my side who understood power and influence, who could protect me when my own family refused to. That was the moment everything shifted. The accident had been terrifying. The abandonment had been heartbreaking. But the arrival of Daniel, the stranger who became my guardian, was the spark of hope I didn't know I needed. And more importantly, it was the first step toward a reckoning. Because my mom had walked away once, and if she ever tried to walk away again, I was no longer 16 and powerless. I had an ally. I had the law. And soon, I would have my revenge. I woke up that morning feeling different. Not just physically stronger, though I was, but awake in a way I hadn't been since the accident. My body had survived, my mind had survived, and for the first time, I realized my mom's abandonment didn't define me. I wasn't just a passive victim anymore. I was alive. I had a guardian who believed in me, and more than anything, I had choices. Daniel was there as always. He had prepared a plan, not revenge in the violent sense, but something far more powerful, justice. "You've been given a second chance," he said, leaning against the doorway, "and I've made sure you have legal authority over your life. Your mom no longer has control over your medical decisions, your schooling, or your finances. It's all yours now." I blinked, letting the words sink in. I thought about the spa. I thought about the cold way she had said, "If he dies, let me know." For the first time, I felt a surge of something I didn't expect: power. The first step was simple. School records, bank accounts, insurance, everything she had tried to control. Daniel walked me through it, showing me how, at 16, I could still take ownership. "Think of it this way," he said. "She walked away when you needed her most. You're not just reclaiming your life, you're proving you don't need her to survive." I nodded. I wanted to say more, but the words stuck in my throat. I realized anger wasn't enough. I needed strategy, patience, precision. A few days later, the confrontation happened. My mom arrived at the hospital, under the guise of visiting her son. She expected tears, gratitude, compliance. Instead, she found me sitting up in bed, calm, dressed in my own clothes, Daniel beside me. Why are you awake?" she stammered, her face pale. "I had surgery," I said evenly. "I'm fine." Her eyes flicked to Daniel. Confusion, fear, irritation. "Who is he?" "My legal guardian," I said. The words hung in the air like a gavel striking wood. Her lips trembled, but no words came. Daniel didn't speak. He simply watched, calm and unflinching. I realized something then. The power had shifted. The next moments were electric. She tried to take control. I want to see your medical records." "They're mine now," I said, my voice steady. "You no longer have access." Her hands clenched at her sides. "I'm your mother." "Yes," I said, "and yet you left me when I needed you most." That's the difference. For the first time, she was speechless. Her usual arrogance, the way she had always thought she could bend the world to her will, shattered. It wasn't revenge yet, not the full kind, but it was the first taste. The first realization that I wasn't powerless, and my mom could feel it. Over the next few weeks, I started making small changes. I chose my own doctor. I handled my recovery schedule. I even met with school counselors to take control of my future. Each small victory was a jab, not loud, not dramatic, but it stung where it mattered, her sense of control. She tried to manipulate me. Calls, texts, half apologies, promises to make it right, but I didn't fall for any of it. I had seen who she really was, and I had learned that sometimes people only respect consequences, not emotions. Daniel became more than a guardian. He became a mentor. He taught me the rules of leverage, how to protect myself, and most importantly, how to stay calm while chaos tried to drag me under. "You don't need to yell," he told me once. "You don't need to cry. You just need to act. Let the consequences do the talking." And act I would. The first real shock to my mom came when I made a bold move. I told her I was moving temporarily under Daniel's care, with full legal rights to my decisions. She exploded. Not screaming, not dramatic crying, something worse. Silent, simmering rage. "You can't do this!" she hissed. "I already did," I said, calm, certain, strong. It was a quiet victory, but one that would set the stage for the bigger one to come. Because for 16 years, she had controlled everything. And now, I was learning to control everything that mattered. Part of me still hated what had happened. The abandonment, the betrayal, the coldness. But part of me was also thrilled. Because when someone leaves you to the edge of death, and you survive, you don't just come back. You come back smarter, stronger, and more capable than they ever imagined. And my mom, she had no idea what was coming next. By the time I left the hospital for good, I was no longer the same 16-year-old who had lain helpless in that bed. I was awake. I was aware. I was in control. And my mom had no idea how much she had underestimated me. The first step was public. I knew she thrived on appearances, the way she wanted everyone to see her as perfect, loving, and caring. Her friends, relatives, even casual acquaintances, all thought she was a devoted mother. But appearances can be shattered, and I had the perfect opportunity. Daniel helped me craft a letter, a formal notice sent to every family member, the school, and even her closest friends. It explained the facts, cleanly and legally. How she had refused life-saving care. How she abandoned me while I was in critical condition. How I had been assigned a legal guardian to ensure my safety. And that I was fully in control of my life going forward. No name-calling, no drama. Just the truth. Within hours, the reactions started pouring in. Shock, confusion, questions, and worst of all for her, judgment. When she arrived at home that evening, expecting silence or compliance, she was met with whispers, stares, and attention she couldn't escape. "Mom, everyone knows now," I said calmly. Her face turned pale. Her hands shook slightly. You didn't?" "I did," I said. "You left me to die." I survived. And now the world knows the truth. It was silent for a long moment. Then she finally snapped, but not at me. At the situation, at the exposure, at the reality that control had slipped through her fingers. Over the next few weeks, she tried everything, apologies, excuses, guilt trips. But I had learned from Daniel that emotions were tools, and mine were no longer hers to manipulate. Instead, I focused on building my life. I chose my own school and friends. I managed my medical recovery without interference. I even started working on a small savings fund, something my mom had previously controlled and used as leverage. Every step was a quiet declaration. I was no longer a child she could control. And then came the final moment, the one that truly drove the point home. At a family gathering, she tried to act normal, as if nothing had happened. Smiles, polite conversation, the same superficial charm she always used. I walked in confidently, escorted by Daniel. My presence alone made her pause. I handed a small speech to the room, again factual, calm, undeniable. Everyone saw it. Everyone knew the truth. Her face went from fake composure to disbelief to fear. The carefully built image of the perfect mom collapsed in front of the entire family. No yelling, no screaming, just the undeniable fact that she had abandoned me, and I had survived and thrived without her. The whispers followed her. The stares followed her. And for the first time, she felt powerless. The exact feeling she had given me when I was 16 and helpless. That night, as I looked back on everything, I realized something profound. The accident had nearly killed me. My mother's abandonment had hurt me deeply. But surviving and reclaiming my life had made me stronger than anyone had expected. Not just stronger than her, but stronger than I had ever imagined myself to be. I wasn't just a survivor. I was a young man in control of his own destiny. And the most satisfying part? My mom never got the chance to walk away from the consequences a second time. Because now, I was the one in charge.